Hi everyone, welcome back to Storytime Recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the film from 2014, Honeymoon. Without any further, let's get started. A husband named Paul and his wife Bea are shown discussing on their wedding video as the movie opens. Once they've settled in, they talk about how they met and how Paul proposed to her while they were at a restaurant. After she had to go home because she became ill, Paul made the proposal there, and she naturally accepted.
So we didn't get
Once they get married, they head to a forest where they will spend their honeymoon in a rustic cabin owned by the Bea family. The cabin is located in a remote Canadian forest, and when they arrive, Bea starts showing him around it, pointing out things that are either too old or worn out. They also notice a bear skin hanging on the wall, which indicates that Bea's father enjoyed hunting. As night draws in, they begin to become more intimate. As they snuggle on the bed, Paul inquires about the ducks in their room. She responds that they are all artificial and hollow on the inside before telling him about her unique honeymoon outfit. Later on in the evening, as they are both asleep, we witness an unexplained light appearing directly on their faces. Paul returns to that room of skin bear the following morning after breakfast because he appears fascinated with it. Paul then inquires about her father's hunting adventures, and she jokingly replies that she used to kill fish and frogs with her own hands because she enjoyed the experience. In the following scene, they are in a boat and it comes out that Paul is really afraid of the water. Meanwhile, Bea chooses to go swimming because she doesn't share Paul's fear of the water. The couple decides against it, though, because the lake's water is too chilly. On that particular day, they go to a restaurant where we only find a single man who appears to be quite irritated. He informs them that the restaurant is closed and then, seeing as the lights begin to flicker, breaks his lamp. Just as Paul and Bea are ready to part ways, it turns out that the man knows Bea and he is Will, her childhood buddy. They start talking about their childhood when Bea sees him and gets pleased to see a buddy. Though he has been in charge of everything, Will informs her that the restaurant belongs to the family of his wife Annie. After that, Annie appears and instructs Paul and Bea to depart. When she becomes upset, Will uses force to calm her down and informs the couple that his wife has been not feeling well. Bea can't stop thinking about Annie and her health when they are in bed at night. Paul attempts to cheer her up by suggesting that they might be having troubles, but it doesn't appear to be working. The two eventually fall asleep, and eventually the house lights start to flicker and Paul's alarm begins to ring. Paul was planning to go fishing that morning, but when he got ready and went outside, he noticed that it was still very dark outside and that dawn was still hours away. He thought his alarm clock was broken because it went off early. When Paul realizes that Bea isn't in her bed, he searches the cabin for her but can't find her. Paul hears someone moving in the forest as soon as he enters the kitchen and discovers that the back door is not securely closed. He then leaves the cabin to look for his wife and soon finds himself deep in the forest in the middle of the night. At some point, he discovers his wife unconscious and nude, and he touches her. Paul takes her home right away and helps her regain consciousness. Her husband is now quite alarmed and asks how she got into the forest. She assures him that she may have been sleepwalking and that everything is fine. But when Paul doesn't seem satisfied, she keeps telling him that nothing bad has happened. Paul notices that Bea is acting a little clumsy when making breakfast the following morning. He asks her again what's up with her, and she responds that she is fine given the wife's condition. The husband suggests that Bea see a doctor, but she declines. Paul then goes to get his coffee and discovers that she hasn't even made it. He is really confused by everything because he knows that Bea has never forgotten to batter the bread or been clumsy ever. After that, they head to the river where Paul catches a frog and begins to play with it. However, Paul notices that she has been observing him without responding in any way, which worries him even more because she constantly makes fun of frogs and is a very lively person. She then swims in the chilly water, which throws Paul for a loop because she never goes near the cold water. Paul checks in with her again when they return to their cabin, and she tells him that she has only been tired and that she will feel better soon.
That's all I want.
Paul discovers some marks on her thighs as they are making out, so he begins to hiding them. Paul is confused when she tells him that they must be mosquito bites when he asks about them. She then says that she is going to take a nap. Paul then returns to the location where he discovered Bea the previous evening. He discovers her nightgown there, and as he touches it, he notices something strangely liquid on it. Paul realizes she was not alone when he discovers other footprints in the area. Paul discovers her talking to herself in front of the mirror when he gets home, practicing various phrases she should say in various circumstances. When Paul tries to become romantic with her, she stops him and says the same words she was practicing in front of the mirror after telling him she has a headache. Paul now begins to watch her constantly and concludes that there is definitely something wrong with her.
Your husband.
And I'm your wife.
Once more feeling uncomfortable, Paul asks her if something happened that evening. She replies that she was only sleepwalking. Paul is still suspicious, though, because he has never before experienced sleepwalking. The husband urges her to put on her honeymoon gown as they continue to make out, but she replies that she put it away for laundry. Paul is now quite concerned because he feels like he is living with a completely different person after hearing all of this.
No.
When Paul can't sleep in the middle of the night, he witnesses Bea leaving the room. When she returns, he asks her where she went, and she says she only went to get some water. Paul cross-queries her, asking about her glass, to which she naturally cannot respond because she is not carrying a glass. They go to sleep, and we see light entering the cabin once more. Paul sees the light this time, grabs his revolver, and rushes outside to investigate. He sees someone standing in the woods, but the person quickly vanishes. The instant Paul recognizes him, Paul hurries to scare it by following that person or whatever it was, but it disappears. Paul also shoots a shot from a distance. Bea goes to the balcony to find the source of the gunshot in that time. When the husband arrives at their house, he begins to close all of the cabin's windows and doors before telling her that he is going to pursue the person who was outside. But Bea informs him that he must be mistaken and that nobody was outside. Getting frustrated, Paul approaches her again and inquires as to whether she was in the woods that evening with anyone else. The husband assumes that Bea was with Will that night and shows her the nightgown. Paul asks her why she has been lying to him about that night, to which she responds that she was sleepwalking and does not remember anything. They get into a heated argument, during which Paul tells her that he is only trying to protect her, but Bea tells him that he is overreacting and that he is ruining their special time together.
You're ruining.
They sleep in different rooms that night, and they are both really anxious and uncomfortable. When Paul awakens the following morning, he discovers Bea writing about herself, including her name, age, address, and husband's name. He asks her what she is writing about, to which she replies that it is nothing and hides the diary. The husband is now furious with her because she is acting differently than she did previously. His wife tries to communicate with him, but he becomes less responsive. He then inquires about the marks on her thigh, to which she replies that they have healed. However, Paul observes that instead of getting better, they have gotten worse. In his opinion, the marks do not appear to be the result of bug bites. That day, while cruising along a river in a boat, Paul advises her to return home because he senses something is off with this place. Bea declines, claiming she wants to stay since she is enjoying herself. They then begin making out. After that, as they are about to move forward, he begins to bleed. Paul suggests that she consult a doctor as soon as they get to the cabin, but she responds that it's nothing serious, she's simply menstruating. Paul is aware that her time of the month has not yet arrived. Now that he knows Will is the one responsible for everything, he makes the decision to face Will. On his way there, Paul spots Annie outside the restaurant. Annie behaves in a manner resembling that of Bea, even down to the marks on her thighs. She also says that Will is hiding and gives Paul one last warning before leaving. Then Paul discovers, floating in the sea, Will's bloodied baseball cap. Later, when he chooses to go inside their house, he discovers that there is a camera there. He tries to turn on the lights, but they flicker. While searching, he discovers multiple pages of notes with basic information about Annie, including her and Will's names, as well as security camera footage showing Annie following the bright lights into the woods. Paul even spots the same liquid that was on Bea's gown that evening on Annie's notes. Paul is being watched by a shadow as he leaves. Returning home, he begins to read her diary and finds that she has made identical entries, at which point he accuses her of being someone else. After asking her what's going on with Annie and her, Paul becomes suspicious that Will is actually to blame for their early night absences. Bea responds that she is only trying to keep him safe, and Paul then begins searching anger for his car keys. Bea, on the other hand, locks herself in the bathroom. However, when Paul breaks through and discovers that B has been repeatedly stabbing herself in the genitalia with the toilet bowl cleaner, he is finally forced to tie her to the bed. Then he questions her about details of their relationship, the most of which she either misremembers or neglects. B feels something is moving within her body, and once Paul puts her hand into her vagina and has him remove a large worm-like creature. At this point, B explains that the night she vanished into the woods, she saw the same lights Paul had seen and walked to them. She then encountered a group of silhouetted figures who impregnated her with the creature. Additionally, the wife claims that she is herself, but that the figures are taking away what is left of her. Paul struggles to find their car keys after discovering the truth, but she won't let them go and encourages him to view their wedding video instead. She says she needs to keep Paul hidden from them as a startling beam of light reappears. Just before she knocks him out. The following day, B was putting an anchor around his legs as she takes a boat into the center of the lake. She is concealing him under the water to protect him from the figures. She explains to her husband as he wakes up.
I can't hide in the water.
Paul tries to run away after hearing this nonsense, but it's too late. As she watches her and Paul's wedding video, after her husband's disappearance, B is revealed to be deteriorating and her skin is peeling off. Shortly after, a mystery light appears, and they go into the lights together. Thanks for watching, and remember to turn on your notifications to watch more movie recaps like this one.